Hi, Rick here again from the Game Creators. I've got a great little demo to show you and it'll introduce new concepts such as arrays and particles. As usual, we've got the normal sort of setup stuff here at the start of the program. The first thing I want to show you is this line here, blobs as integer, square bracket 10,3, close square bracket. Sounds a bit weird, but it's actually very, very simple. We're setting up an array called blobs. It'll become clear why we're calling it blobs in a bit. What we're saying is we want integers to make up this array, and the array size is 10 by 3. So you can imagine there are 10 entries. Think of a database like 10 records in a database, and with each record there are 3 numbers. Okay, and what we're using this array for is to store an X position, a Y position, and a radius of a circle. Okay, and that will come clear why we're doing that in a moment. That line defines the array and it sets it up. Now the next sequence of code, okay, for x equals 1 to 10 and does these other things and goes next x, it goes around there 10 times, and each time it goes through it's setting blobs x, 1. So x will be 1, so the first entry in the array will be 1, 1, and it will equal a random number between 100 and 850. That's going to set an X position within the array. Then we do the next X, 2, and that is going to store a Y position, 100 by 600. And finally, in the third part of the array, we're going to store a radius between 200 and 200. We do that 10 times, so we fill that array with lots of numbers. I'll come clear why we're doing that in a moment. Then we're going to load a particle image. All right, we'll just leave that out for now. We also need to remove these particle lines for now. Okay, then we're going to create an image number 1, and it's going to be red. Done that before in previous examples. And again, we're going to count to 10 through a for next loop. We're going to create sprite 1 to 10 using that color image, and we're going to set sprite of each image 10 by 10 in size. Then we come down to this part of the program, which is a do loop with a sync inside, and we're going to count from 1 to 360 in steps of 3. I'll just change it to 1 first. So we're going to count 1 to 360, and we're going to go through, we're going to nest inside there another loop for I equals 1 to 10. So we're going to actually go through all those 10 sprites we just created, and for each of those sprites we're going to calculate an X and a Y position. Okay, and we're going to take, it's a quite clever routine this, I used to do it way back in the day. We're going to do this sine, alright, you remember sine and cosine and tangent from maths school? Well, you get to use them in programming, it's pretty cool. We're going to take the sine of d, which is a degree, we're going to make a circle pattern. So we take the sine of d and then we times the current radius that we've stored in the array blobs. Okay, so the first one will be blobs 1, 3, and whatever value that was generated back up here, yeah, blobs x 3 is random between 220 and 200. And then the y is the cosine of the degrees times blobs. And this sine and cosine are so small that the results of those calculations, that we times them by the random number that we generated, and then we get a nice large circle, well, medium to large circle. Then we're going to use those X and Y positions in this set sprite position calculation. So we set the sprite position of I, sprite I, again 1 to 10, and we're going to take the X position out of the array. So we set that, remember, we set the random position up here and the random position for the Y there, and we're going to add that X offset that we calculated here, and the same for the Y. So I'm going to run that, and you can see that each of the 10 sprites is going round in a circle based on its X and Y position that was randomly calculated, and also based on the random sort of radius for that particular circle. And if I run it again, you'll see every time they're in different positions and they have different radius sizes. So that's a pretty cool thing to know about, doing that, if you want to do something interesting with moving sprites. But let's get the particles in. Okay, so what we have to do is we have the load particle routine here. That just loads in a small image file that's like a blob, and here we're going to set the particles. We're going to create particle 1 to 10 here, and we're just going to put them at X and Y position 0, 0 for the initial creation process. Then we're going to assign each particle with the same image that we've just loaded in back up here. See, image number 2 was particle.png. And then this routine here, this is going to do the particle stuff. So I'm going to comment that back in, and we're going to go through these. So we use this line to set the particle position of the current particle. Again, each particle will be linked to a sprite position. We're going to use the blob's X and Y positions and add the offset of the X and Y that we calculate here. Then we can set all these different parameters. I'm going to just turn some of these off so we can come back and turn them on in a moment. Let's play that, and now you can see particles are being generated at the same position of the sprites. You can see the red sprites. Yeah, I mean, I used sprites initially just to calculate the circle, but you don't really need the sprites because you've got the X and Y position already calculated in the array. And what I can do is just hide the sprites. Here we've got set sprite visible, run it again, and now there's no sprites, it's just particles. Okay, so what can we do with these other properties? These commands set the colour of the particles based on time. So I'll just release the first one, run it again, and now the particles are red. Okay, so it was doing set particle colour keyframe number 1 within the first second, turn it red. And the next one is going to, after 2 seconds, RG, turn it green. So you should get red, then green. Red, then you see the particles turn green. Each particle has a lifespan, and you can define how long the lifespan is. So after 3 seconds we're going to turn it blue, run again. See, they go green, then they go blue. They all disappear, so what I can do at the end is after 4 seconds we'll turn them black. So they'll merge from blue to black and disappear. So they go green, blue, and then fade off. And then you've got this lovely effect of the particles rotating round. Okay, so you can play with these different values. Frequency, how frequent the particles come out. Let's try 20 instead of 100, see what effect that has. You can see there's not so many particles now. Let's put that back up to 100. The size of the particles, let's make them bigger. Let's say 60. Now they're huge. And you'd play around with these values and set them to whatever you needed for your particular effect in your game. The life, how long they last. So if we increase that to say 7, then the particles should last a lot longer. But actually, because we're fading them to black, they're going to disappear. So let's just take out that, change that. Well, what we could do is actually say after 6 seconds turn to black. Okay, so that's today's demo. The source code, well, the project can be downloaded. Just look in the description below and you can download it, and you can then load that into AppGameKit and play around with it. I hope that's been of use. I think, it's important to know what arrays are and how to use them. So have a play around with them, and we'll start to look at other areas of AppGameKit in the next tutorial. Okay, thanks for watching, and please subscribe.